conversation or argument that I have is with some Africans or Caribbeans is that they would say that Black Americans don't have any culture, right? Mm-hmm. Or they'll say that racism doesn't exist because I was able to come from my country and I made I was able to be successful and provide for my family. Y'all just using racism as an excuse, to hold y'all back or whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. Well, what's your thoughts on?
Well, number one, they're politically ignorant, socially inexperienced. They know very little about the experience of the American African. And they also don't understand racism. In order for racism to succeed, some blacks must be successful.
He said in order for racism to succeed, you need blacks that are successful. That is interesting. That is very interesting. I just want to hear him elaborate more on this.
Mm-hmm. You need a LeBron. You need an Oprah. You need a Tyler Perry. You need a Sean Carter. You need a Beyonce Knowles. You need a Sean Puffy Combs. You need a Robert Johnson. You follow? Why do you need successful black people if you want to destroy our black people? Because in order to brainwash the other ones into believing that your failure is not due to systemic discrimination, it's due to the fact that you're not intelligent enough or you're not working hard enough. Do you see that? Right. So if Dr. Umar is a billionaire and you've been trying to get your business off the ground, it ain't popped yet. You've been trying to get your corporation off the ground, it ain't popped yet. You didn't open up 10 business, they all didn't flop. You need me as the billionaire to come and say, fellas, it's not your fault. They designed the system to not work in your behalf. But because I love being rich and I love my proximity to white culture and lifestyle, I don't tell you it's not your fault that there's a game set up and there's only going to be a few Dr. Umars. I tell you the problem is yours. Obviously, you didn't do your business plan right. Obviously, the reason why the bank didn't give you the business loan is because you didn't have your numbers right. Your credit wasn't high enough. You see that? Mm-hmm. And so the black millionaire and billionaire class is one of white supremacy's greatest arguments to defend itself against accusations of racism. Because Oprah Winfrey is not going to indict the system. LeBron James is not going to indict the system. You understand me? Tyler Perry is not going to indict the system because they made their money through the system. And because they're at the top of black society, they know how powerful white folks really are. They know how unfair the game really is. Mm-hmm. They know me being here is a privilege that white people gave me. Yes, I worked hard to get here, but I would never be here without their help. Right. At the end of the day, all of our black millionaires and billionaires are owned by the white power structure. I don't say that to be disrespectful because I respect LeBron James, right? I appreciate the image of a black man with a black woman with black children who's never been in any trouble. Right. Entered the league at 17, 18 years old and never had a single scandal. He's a good example of a responsible black man.
So I just want to ask y'all, right, that's watching this video, I just want to ask y'all, after what Dr. Umar has said so far, right, do y'all believe what he's saying? Do y'all think what he's saying is true? Like, do you believe everything that he's saying? Now, of course, me personally, there are some parts that I do agree with, but then there are some points where it's just like, I don't know. I'm kind of like in the middle here, But for the most part, he's made some good points so far. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's not lying about, white people being in control of most of the businesses and most of the companies that we know today, you know what I'm saying, and stuff. He's not wrong about that. Do y'all believe the point that he said where, all the black successful people like Beyonce, LeBron, Sean Carter, and all of them, do you believe that all those black people are successful because it's a privilege for them to be successful? Do y'all believe that? I'm asking y'all, you feel me? Because I already know how I feel about it. You get what I'm saying? But I just want to hear y'all take on this.
Right. I like how Jay-Z came from Marcy Projects and now you're a billionaire the legal way. I like what Oprah did coming from nothing at Tennessee State. I like what Tyler Perry did coming from sleeping in his car to being a billionaire to owning the first all-black music studio, one of the largest in the country. Even white folk go to Tyler Perry Studios to film their movies. Part of Black Panther 2 was filmed at Tyler Perry Studios. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate their rags to riches story. The problem is they can't top it off with a cherry on top. And the cherry on top is to look the camera in the eye and say, I made it, but most of my people will never will because the system is not designed for black people to succeed. And this is how they get us. They'll promote a few blacks. Everybody else struggling, everybody else in poverty, everybody else coming out of prison, but they'll promote a few blacks, and because a few blacks made it, they're automatically supposed to mean that we are doing better. No other group you could push that on because every other group is based on collective group progress.
Right.
Black people, we are totally rooted in selfishness, in meism. We don't have weism like the Latinos, or weism like the Asians, or weism like the Anglo-Saxons, or weism like the European Jews. We have meism. And as long as we have meism, a few successful blacks automatically means y'all all...
See, now that's the one thing that I wholeheartedly disagree with him on, is the fact that we as black people, we are systematically oppressed by white people, especially in today's age. I could understand him if we were talking like 1960 or 1863 or some shit like that, back in the 1900s. I could understand that if we lived in during those times. We don't live in those times no more. I'm not saying that everything is, candy and ice cream and everything is dandy and better now. I mean, you have to admit things are a lot better now than they were back then. And I also do realize that racism still exists. I just don't believe in systemic racism. Unless you have proof that shows me that we are being systemically oppressed, unless you have any evidence or proof to show me that that is the case, I refuse to believe that. So the reason why you as a black person is not successful is because you are not taking the initiative to do better. You are not grinding. You are not willing to put on those few extra hours at your job. You are not willing to take that risk and start that business that you always been thinking about starting, but because you were too insecure and you didn't know how to go about it, you just gave up on it. That's all on you. That's all on you. You have to be accountable for your own actions. You can't say, oh, well, the reason I'm not successful is because of the white man. No, that's just you being a bitch, and that's just you making excuses. And that's just you wanting people to feel sorry for you. Let me tell you something, man. Life is hard, man. It really is. But no matter how hard life is, you will never hear me say, oh, the reason why I'm suffering and the reason why I'm doing bad in life is because of the white man. You will never hear me say no shit like that, bro. Who am I to blame the white man for my own problems? So when I hear people say that we are systematically oppressed by the white man and he's the reason why I can't get the job that I want, he's the reason why I can't get into the college that I want, he's the reason why I can't start the business that I want, that's all bullshit. And like I said before, if you can show me proof and evidence that we actually are systemically oppressed, then I'll take back everything that I said. Word to everything. I'll take back everything that I just said. But if you can't show me any proof that we are systemically oppressed, then it really just comes off as you just bitching and whining about your situation instead of using that same energy and putting into action to trying to make your life better.
All must do better. Like I think I saw Jay-Z do an interview one time and they said, well, what have you done for black people? And he said something to the effect, and I don't want to misquote him, I'm paraphrasing. He said something like, me just being who I am
is enough for black people.
Is enough for black people. Okay. Most ridiculous, arrogant, ignorant statement I ever heard. But that's what black millionaires and billionaires feel. Because I've made it, I'm a benefit to my race. And it's that same ridiculous black bourgeoisie illogical thinking that ushered Barack Obama into the White House, who did nothing for black people but steal everything we work for and give it to the gays, the immigrants, the Latinos, and white women.
A lot of people don't... I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I said, so what do you say about like selective people that selectively black, or they want to seem like they support black people? And black people are like, we're forgiving to everybody, right? We always give opportunity.
Except each other.
Yeah, exactly. So how do we handle that? Or should we still be supportive? Or, because
Give me an example of someone who's selectively black. Give me an example of...
right.
Like people that like kind of pick and choose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was saying that as far as like groups, different people. Okay, so like, let's bring even the reparation situation. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of groups of people, like people from Jamaica or people from the Caribbean. They're not black, but now they're hearing that reparations is a possibility. Mm-hmm. They want to be black now.
I would argue they are black.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue they are African.
But they're not. Prior to that, they say, I'm not black. You get what I'm saying?
I understand. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't identify with y'all, but when there's a benefit to be obtained, I will.
Yes.
Temporarily.
Yes.
Until I get what I need and just roll off the boat.
Exactly.
Okay. Anyone who is disingenuous about their membership in the African race should be rejected from it. I don't believe in part-time Africans, Halfricans. I don't believe in opportunistically Africans, right?
Definitely.
Like what you're speaking of, you know, selective Africans. If there's some...
This is very interesting because I know there are some Jamaicans and some Africans out there. I don't even like the term African American. I'd rather just say Black American. But I don't know, that's just me. Like, the Black Americans that were born here in America, our values and our culture is very different from Africans who grew up in Africa. You do have some Africans out there who do not like Black Americans. They don't like how they act. They don't like how they talk. I've even heard some Africans say that, you know, Black Americans are ghetto and they just don't respect us. They don't take us seriously. Like, you get what I'm saying? You know, some of them do look at Black Americans differently.
Something that I can select that will be a benefit for me. I'll be African for a week, for a day, for a year until I get it. And then I'm not African no more. I reject all of them.
Okay.
Whether that's a Jamaican African or an American African.
Definitely.
Because you got black folks right here who are the offspring of our enslaved ancestors who don't identify as being black. For me, blackness is a two-pronged test. First of all, are you biologically African?
Definitely,
And are you psychologically African? So if I look at some of my Puerto Rican African brothers and sisters and some of my Dominican African brothers and sisters, many of them are biologically black, but they do not psychologically identify with the race at all. Many do, but more often than not, they don't. And so for the ones who do not identify, I don't accept. I don't believe in begging, pleading, or forcing people to be African. You follow what I'm saying?
Definitely.
It's an honor to be God's original people. It's an honor to have the strongest DNA. It's an honor to be the oldest people, the most creative people. It's an honor to be who we are. We're God's first children. We are the chosen people. So I'm not forcing nobody. If you think being ultra light skinned is a benefit, run with it. You understand? If you think speaking Spanish makes you better than black people speak English, you run with it. Or if you're an American Negro like Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who goes out of your way to support the white power structure at the expense of African people, you run with that. You follow me? Anybody who wants out, I'm letting them out. Because the worst thing you can do is force a black person to be black when they don't want to be. Because the minute they get a chance to stab you in the back, they're going to do it 2 times. You follow me? So anybody who don't want to be, you're free to leave. And let's deal with the people who are 100%, 24 hours a day.
And I agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree with that point. I agree with that. I've even had some Spanish people that I went to high school with, and they were mixed. You know what I'm saying? So they would have Dominican and have black or whatever, right? They would rather stick more to their Spanish side than their black side. You know?
Unapologetic.
And if you say this to our aunties, our grandmas, they're going to forgive them. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, let them back in. You get what I'm saying?
But the issue...
Don't you
Well,
think
let me go back. Let me take a step back. For me,
Yeah.
this should only be one reparations movement anyway. I don't support the tribalistic approach to reparations where the American Africans got their own fight, the Caribbean Africans got their own fight, the continental Africans got their own fight, the Australian Africans got their own fight, the Brazilians got their own fight, Central American Africans, We all came from one place. One place, and it should be one organized system for reparations. The reason we don't have a global approach to reparations is because everybody favors the tribe over the race, and that is why Pan-Africanism is so revolutionary, because we're the only ones to say that being African is more important than being a Jamaican. Being African is more important than being an American African, a descendant of a slave. Being African is more important than being a Brazilian. Until you elevate the family above your nationality, then we'll never get what we need. You have to have a unified approach for something as important as reparations. And I'm going to be honest with you, and this is something that a lot of us are not looking at globally or locally, and that is what we are demanding for reparations, you normally only get through an act of war. If we get all that we are entitled to, it'll be the first time in human history that one group of people received from their oppressors that type of a settlement, that type of a resolution without no bloodshed.
I don't know, man. It's like with reparations, I really don't know about that because I just don't see the point in asking for it. The way the country is right now, economically speaking, I just don't really see the point of asking for reparations. I really don't. We have so much other shit to worry about in this country right now that I don't think we should be worried about reparations of all things. And I think reparations should be the least of our worries right now. That's how I feel about reparations. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I'll see y'all next time.